Alright, so today we're going to graph a climatograph. A climatograph or climate graph is the data that is collected on your ecosystem or a biome over a long period of time. So the substitute is giving you two worksheets. You're going to be using those today. In your notes packet, the colored one that we were highlighting and reading the other day, you will have the same information, it's just presented differently. So I want you to use these two worksheets to practice on, and then you and your group are going to actually research and find the data for your ecosystem that you're using for your project, and you're going to graph a climate graph for it to turn in by the due date of your project. So it's not something I'm expecting you to do today, but on Friday when you're in the library you could actually work on it to make sure you get it done. So on the worksheet that has the pictures and the reading information, on the front of it, the second paragraph, there's a sentence which I have highlighted here on this screen that I want you to highlight on your paper. And it says a climate graph is a graph of climate data for a specific region and is generated from data usually obtained over a 30-year from local weather observation stations. So that's important to understand that this data didn't just get here after a year's time. It's been, over time, over a long period of time that they've accumulated the data in order to create the average to get a good snapshot of the biome's characteristic. On the back of that sheet, the top sentence, the first sentence on the page, says comparing climate graphs can give you a greater understanding of the temperature and precipitation patterns in regions within a biome. So this too, I want you to highlight on your worksheet, is important for you to understand why we even look at climate graphs. Now the next thing we're going to do is you're going to practice creating one, and you're going to have to use your imagination a little bit because I could not get the copy of the worksheet to scan for me to use on this document. So I have a blank one and you have one that has numbers, and what we're going to do first is understand the 6 parts of a climate graph. So let me get my pen here. Okay, 1. The first part is all graphs have a title. Your title for a climate graph names the city or a location, and in your case it's a city in New York, and it tells you exactly where that city is, and it gives you the name of the state. Now sometimes it's a city in another country or a town somewhere else. The other thing, and you'll see it on the top of your worksheet, it'll give you the longitude and latitude. A lot of climate graphs include that in the title. The second thing is, and you should already have the numbers on your worksheet, is you have a scale on the left hand side like we do with all great graphs. Your scale on the left side is in inches. So what I'd like you to do is turn your paper to the right, and we're going to label this scale because it didn't come complete with label. And the label that we're going to label on here is precipitation. So you have your paper turned sideways, and I want you to write the title for the scale of precipitation. You should always label your graphs. So precipitation. That's a little hard for me to write with a mouse, so you have to pardon the sloppiness of it. But the other thing you have is you do already have the scale drawn. You don't have to calculate it, but most of the time you would have to calculate the scale. Now if you flip your paper in the other direction, the other part of your climatograph will be on the other side. You'll notice there's a second scale, and in this case the scale is in Fahrenheit degrees, and the numbers again are already on there, and Fahrenheit is a measurement of temperature. So we're going to label this one temperature. So make sure you put the word temperature on your paper, just like I am on my paper. Temperature. Sorry about that. I know it's hard to read. It's a little hard for me to write. Again, this is just a practice. You will be doing this on a graph piece of paper for your biome. Then at the very bottom, we have a time axis, and then in this case, time is months of the year. So they're already abbreviated for you, January, February, March, all the way to December. So we need to label this axis of months of the year. So go ahead and label yours, months of the year. Okay, I'm going to abbreviate here a little bit to save some time. Okay, so months of the year. Now, at the top of your worksheet, you'll notice that there are two charts. One chart is the average temperature, and the other one is the average rainfall. So we're going to start with the average rainfall first. When we're doing precipitation on a climate graph, we graph it as a bar graph. So the first data for January is 4.4 inches. So you're going to find the number 4. I'm going to approximate here, and it's 4.4. So you draw your line, because you're making a bar graph, and then draw it down to the baseline, and then you're going to shade that information in. And you want to continue doing that for all 12 months. And then February is 2.2, and you want to shade that in and continue along until you get all the way to December. And March was 4.4, and like I said, continue this along until you get all 12 months done. And then come back to the video. So go ahead and pause the video now and graph your 12 months. Alright, the next thing we're going to do after you've done all 12 of your months, which I'm not going to do, you'll have to see the answer key sample from the substitute. He can show you that if you would look up at him and ask him when you're finished graphing your data completely to double check your answers. So the next thing we're going to do, and this is where it becomes a little tricky, but it's very simple. It's the same way as graphing the precipitation, except for now we're going to do temperature. And so we're going to use the right-hand scale, which is the temperature numbers, and the same months of the year in the same sequence that they're written. So for January, the temperature is 30.7 degrees. So you find 30.7 degrees. We're doing a line graph now, not a bar graph. So you go all the way over to January and you make your dot for your line graph. And then you go to February and you make your dot for your February graph. And then you make your dot for your March graph. And you keep following that same pattern as you would normally for a line graph. Now I know you don't have your cross grid section, so be careful to keep your data lined up. Each dot goes above each month, but you're working again from left to right, but your scale is on the right hand side, so make sure you're using the right scale. And then once you draw all your dots, all 12 of them, all the way over to December, then you want to play connect the dots. And again, when you're completely finished with this, have the substitute show you the answer key. Just hold it up and show it to you so you know what you're doing. Once you're finished practicing this, if you have enough time now, you and your group members can find some data on your ecosystem or biome. Pick a city, pick an area, pick a location, whatever it is you're doing. You just need to get one set of data for your biome that's reflective of your characteristic of your biome, and you're going to create one graph for the group. So however many people are in the group, you're all working on the same graph. If you have any questions, then you can ask me tomorrow when I'm back in school. Thank you. Have a great day. Bye.